Howdy, everybody, and welcome to today's live interview with Kenny G. Kenny G, you gonna play some music?
Maybe a little later. I think I forgot my guitar at the shop.
Is Kenny G your real name?
Close enough.
That's right, guys. Kenny G's been on our podcast before on a different topic, but he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want to talk about things people should know while traveling." And I kind of added, because I know you're going to end up talking about this, like situational awareness, something that has really struck me in the last couple years that I've been on the road is, so I was driving to Texas, and you know how those alerts come over your phone that everybody turns off because they're annoying?
Yep.
Okay, so one of those alerts came over my phone. I'm like, I have Amber Alerts. Shut off. Like, what's up? And a convict had escaped prison. So it was a different kind of alert. And he had taken people hostage. And they said, this is going on in this area. Well, I had made the critical error of following my GPS instead of my map to get around, to route around a traffic issue. So I didn't actually know where I was. And so when it said where it was, I didn't know where it was in relationship to that. And luckily I had more than half a tank, because I usually top off about every half tank when I'm driving somewhere long distance. And I got all the way to my destination, and it turned out I was within a couple miles, and the guy ended up taking a family hostage, driving to Ohio and killing them before he was caught. And so that's what I mean by situational awareness. Like, we get so used to technology that sometimes it's a really bad idea to just put your faith in it. But there's a lot of stuff you can do. Oh, I lost the light. There's a lot of stuff you can do between now and then. But let's start with, before we jump into that, I'm just giving everybody the overview. Um, uh, Tell us who you are and how you ended up on LFTN anyway.
Um, Ken, or Kenny G if you prefer. And yes, that is the real first initial for my last name. Um, I am working, or I work for the Emergency Concierge Service, R3 Contingencies. We see a lot of things happen up, down, left, right. And I thought it would be a great topic here. And not to mention, I've reached out to Nicole for several things regarding business. So pay it back, right?
Yeah. So what is R3 contingencies before we jump in there?
They are, far as I know, the world's only emergency concierge service that there is.
What does an emergency concierge service do?
For example, let's say you go on a flight and they lose your luggage and you have a business meeting. It would have been something that we prep for, and we would have clothes delivered to your hotel room,
Well, that's pretty
along
cool.
with, a Visa gift card if you need it, a phone charger, standard stuff that you may have forgotten or gotten lost. Or example, you run out because your kid's in the hospital. We deliver a phone charger to you, food, basic necessities, toothbrush, toothpaste, stuff like that.
Wow, that sounds
Our
really.
services, yeah.
Yeah. I found your website, so I thought I had to, show it, because we have that capacity here. Okay, so let's go back to traveling, though, because traveling has probably taught me more about prepping than anything else. One thing I learned is you never leave the house without a snack in your bag, because you're going to end up on a train somewhere in the middle of the night in Eastern Germany, and you didn't have time to get dinner, and luckily you have that snack in your bag. But why should I prep for travel? And if I'm like with a tour group, should I still prep for travel? And if so, why?
Absolutely, you should still prep for travel. And prepping for travel is essential because, let's face it, you never know. Um, I live in New Hampshire. I'm really close to Boston. When the big dig was happening, I have literally driven into Boston and had the road closed that I drove in on the way out.
Yeah. What's that mean? Do you just get stuck on the road?
Yeah, I had to get rerouted and I was stuck in a traffic jam for about 4 hours. What should have been an hour and a half trip literally took me all day. And had I not done things like, make sure my gas tank is kept half topped off, bare minimum. I keep a gallon of water in the car. I keep Cliff Bars in the car. I mean, I know they're not the healthiest thing for you, but they do help satisfy your hunger. And there is such a thing as driving hangry, and I would not recommend it.
Well, why not?
Because you make stupid choices when you're hangry. I mean, I know it says no U-turn, but I don't see anyone here and I'm starving.
Yeah, I took a wrong turn on my way from Oklahoma City to Tennessee, which literally all you need to do is stay on the stupid freeway, which is I-40, right? But I got on the freeway going the wrong direction after getting gas, and then I took the next exit, which was a terrible idea. Ended up driving 28 miles one direction to where I could finally turn around after paying a toll, and 28 miles back. And I kept looking at the gaps every so often that said, "Don't drive through here." And I finally, like, I was like, well, there's so many cars coming, I'm not going to do it, right? But I was really tempted. And I got to the toll booth and I asked about those. And he's like, oh, yeah, we actually have cameras up. We would have busted your ass because people get into accidents when they do that. So I made the right choice in that turn and in that situation. But what does prepping for travel look like?
Depends. Are you flying or driving? I mean, we're talking about driving, so let's go with that. A simple low hanging fruit is get AAA. It doesn't cost much, and if you get one tow, just one in like 4 years, it pays for itself. I used to work for a towing company back when I was younger and had hair, and it started out like $150 to pick you up plus $15 a mile. That adds up really, really fast.
Yeah. So I have AAA for this reason, and the poor people have had to tow me at least twice a year since I got it. And except for this year, because it's the second or third or something. What happened in 2020 with AAA is they would pick your car up, but not you.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And they said they didn't want to risk giving the drivers COVID. So I was in 2020, maybe it was 2021. It was still in effect. I get caught in the middle of the wilderness, basically, between Chattanooga and Sparta. So I'm like literally on the side of the road. There's nothing around. And they're like, well, you can't ride with the driver because of our policies. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? You know what they told me to do?
Get an Uber.
Call a cab. And I'm like, I don't know if you understand where I am right now. Cause they're always like, are you safe? I'm like, no, I'm not safe. I'm on the side of the road in the middle of the winter. And so they were like, well, we don't know what to tell you, ma'am. This is the deal during COVID. And that made me rethink my relationship with AAA. Now, what I ended up doing was asking the driver if he cared if I jumped in, and he said, "Are you sick?" And I said, "No." He said, "Then go ahead." And I did get it was a driver decision. And I did have friends coming to pick me up if that didn't happen, but they were going to have to drive like 2 hours to get me. Meanwhile, my car was towed, because it was broken down. So, um, what do you think about that in AAA? Like, they're kinda dead to me, but not dead to me because it's the only towing service I've really found that seems to work at all.
That doesn't cost you an arm and a leg when you have to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, okay, first of all, everyone went insane during COVID. I mean, let's face it, totally reasonable, rational people I know lost their freaking minds.
Yeah.
So I can't fault AAA too much, and they've probably done away with that policy. Like way, way back in the day, 2010, they actually could not leave you on the side of the road. They had policies against that. If you had to like load 5 people into your tiny 2-person cab, you did it. You drive to the next exit and you let them off. But as I said, people lost their minds during COVID.
Yeah, that happened once to my mom too. She was stuck in the middle of the freeway, like, the middle, left middle, because the car went into limp mode. Do you know what that is?
Yes, that
It's
is the
when you're
mode that it enters in when it only does 30 miles an hour.
Oh, no, it did 5. 5. 5 in a rainstorm on I-40, won't go more than 5, rush hour traffic. She pulls into the left shoulder, calls AAA, and they're like, "Well, we can't get there for 4 hours. Are you safe?" And I'm like, "No, she's actually not safe." Like, anybody could just reef into the back of that car, and they go super fast and whatever, and you can't see. So the police came, and they actually drove her to the next exit, which was nice.
That is something you should probably look at depending on your location. Suppose the police had said, no, we don't want to wait for AAA. We're going to call one of our guys and they'll tow you. In a lot of AAA states, if they cannot get to you in a reasonable amount of time, they will pay for the tow.
I have had that happen with them too, where they couldn't get there for 4 hours, and I said, "What's my option?" And they said, "You get reimbursed." And then they reimbursed me 80 bucks.
Yeah, that probably wasn't enough to cover the tow, was it?
It actually was in that case because I live in the middle of nowhere.
Oh,
Yeah. It would not have been the case had it been that incident in the middle of the road when so we didn't know what limp mode was, so I didn't know why the car was only going 5 miles per hour and going doop, 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 but I was like, "Hmm, sounds like a transmission problem," right? Had I known about limp mode, I would have been like, "Hey, cops, let us get over to the right-hand shoulder, and then we'll just limp to the next
yeah,
exit."
down to the
But
next exit.
it seems to me that limp mode is a really dangerous thing when it drops you to 5 miles an hour and won't let you do anything because you basically can't get yourself out of a situation at that point. I don't have that car anymore for that reason. They're dead to me. People become dead to me easily.
Well, if it's between limp mode and the car not running, I prefer limp mode because at least I can move a little bit. Versus some cars, they will literally just shut down and tell you, nope, not moving. But you're
Yeah,
capable of it. Don't care, not doing it.
no, exactly. I mean, I've driven on rims before to get out of dangerous situations just because I'm like, I know this is going to cost me a lot, but I'd rather pay money for that than like die on the side of the road because my car had a blowout of some sort in a really dangerous place. Uh, but I'm a weirdo, and everybody's like, "Why do women always do that?" I'm like, "Because I'm not going to get out of my car and get hit by a semi. That's why." I feel like woman versus semi wins
Every time.
every time. Yeah. Red Fire Media says waited 6 hours in Austin at night with a motorcycle. So how what else should you do besides have something like AAA? Because I mean it works. It is better than nothing. It's probably the best option I've found out there from a price to benefit ratio. But obviously I have lots of stories about being stranded by AAA, and we have some in the comments here. Like, what else can you do?
Something else, this is just very basic stuff. Get a floor jack, one with wheels on it. I don't recommend the bottle jack. And the reason I say the floor jack with wheels is because if you need to, you can use it to help get your lug nuts off. Keep your car on the ground, put the stupid little bar they give you, and put the jack on the side of the bar. So that way, when you jack it up, it turns the lug. Because some people out there, like my wife, she weighs 110 pounds soaking wet. If she's driving an F-250, she does not have the body mass to get that lug off. It doesn't matter. It's not happening. However, she can jack it up, then stand on it, or use the jack in reverse to retighten the bolts if she needs to.
And to know how to do that, like, how do you know those things to do besides just, like, that one tip?
Heard a lot of horror stories and found ways around them. The other thing is try to have more than your cell phone. I mean, I know, like you said, we've become so reliant on these things. It has a light. What do I need a flashlight for? You want a flashlight. If it's pouring rain out, you do not want your cell phone sitting there as you're trying to get your lugs off.
And your cell phone is not as bright as something like a Streamlight or, like, a decent pocket flashlight even. So
Correct. Another thing is, and I hate saying this, but dollar store glow sticks, they're not road flares, but if you buy 5 of them and just crack them and toss them down the road, at least they give people something. In worst case scenario, you have a glow stick light.
yeah, that makes sense. I have one of those, cigarette lighter plug-in tire inflator, like compressors. It has a built-in light too, so every time it's on, its flashlight's on because they just assume you need me in the middle of the night and you can't see anything outside.
Yep,
So
that's another good one to have. The only thing I worry about with those is if your alternator dies. Because most people don't know that their alternator dies until they're going, why are my headlights getting dimmer?
yeah.
And why did my radio stop? Oh, that's weird. So they just keep driving, and then now your car is literally out of power.
Right. I mean, those you're using it because you have a flat tire, and I don't know if you know this about me, but I have the flat tire curse. I may have actually finally passed it on, but there was a series of years where every time I went on any road trip of any kind, there was a tire blowout or a flat, or I came out from the hotel one morning and there it was flat. And so that's why I have that thing, because I was like, okay, I can pump it up, get to where I need to go to get it patched or whatever. I do have a patch kit. I'm not terribly good at patching tires myself, but I can plug them if I need to usually. Um, it's a strength issue of getting the thing into the hole.
The reamer. Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's my challenge with those, but I think, like, the more stubborn I am about it, the better it is, but having that way of inflating tires no matter what has been really helpful, because I 'cause I'm usually 20 miles from somewhere useful at any given time when there's a problem. It's not like, "Oh, hey, look, there's a repair guy and my car just broke right here," or, "There's a gas station and my car just broke right here." It's always like, "Okay. Nope, no self-service. Uh, now what do I do? I gotta get somewhere where I can go somewhere." So, what's the most
Another
common
advantage
what?
Another advantage to those is, at least around here, we get weather that's like -20. And when it is, those gas station compressors will not work. They turn on, but they don't pump air out. Those little plug into your lighter air compressors still work.
Yeah, especially if your car's warm.
Exactly.
What do you tell people to do who are driving in environments like yours where it is really cold? Like, what else should they have in the car besides some, basic water and food?
Space blanket. You can buy 10 of them for like 12 bucks on Amazon, and they are a lifesaver. And this may sound weird, but believe it or not, if you are broken down in a car with no gas, the car will be colder than the actual outside because
Why
it's
is
pretty
that?
much a giant ice box. Something to do with the metal and thermodynamics and some math that is just beyond me at the moment. But yes, there have been multiple studies done, one of them actually done by AAA, and it turns out outside of your car actually is warmer than inside of your car at a certain point.
Yeah, unless you have a wind
Assuming
chill, I assume that's insane.
correct.
Yeah. Oh, oh, the cat. What else? Space blankets, water, food, anything else? Hand warmers, anything like that?
Hand warmers are a nice one to keep. However, most people lose them. I've stopped recommending them because people throw them in their trunk. Then when they need them, I can't find them.
Oh,
Or they throw them in their glove box, and then I throw 10,000 other things in my glove box, and I cannot find them.
you mean they don't all have a little kit in their card with all the stuff in it?
No, no, no. Most people don't. They just throw it in the back of their truck or in
Oh,
their
okay.
trunk, whatever. Um, Another thing I tend to recommend is just some basic toiletries: toothbrush, toothpaste, face cloth, soap. I mean, if you happen to get stuck or, God forbid, sleeping in your car because the roads are closed, they washed out, they had to close down the road because some guy's holding a family hostage. If you can sleep in a Walmart parking lot, go into the Walmart and just, wash your face, some other necessities, it makes you feel 10 times better.
Yeah, I know somebody who actually ended up in a Walmart parking lot, I think recently waiting for her husband when the pass got just jacked up with trucks sliding all over the place. And luckily they got a hotel that night. That's the other thing is when they close the highway for snow or something, all of the hotels are instantly booked.
Yep.
So how do you get your
Yep.
hotel room in that case? If you see a road closing, how do you get the hotel first?
Go for off the beaten path. Don't look for hotels next to airports. That's what everyone goes for. And those tend to be the first ones that fill up. And this is a little tweak here. Don't look for hotel, look for motel. Everyone looks for hotel. Those fill up, look for motel, and you might be able to find something a little better. Downside, motels tend to be a little lower quality. So, yeah, bed bugs are a thing.
Oh yeah. Well, that and fights outside your door at certain motels. I've had
Oh,
that
yeah,
happen
3 in
a
the
few
morning.
times.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to when I'm gonna be if I'm at a motel that feels sketchy, which I try not to do, I love to be on the front office side of the building because the fights all seem to happen in the pool area where they
Yep.
can't see. So just a little. I mean, if you end up in that situation and it's safer than staying in your car, then, see if you can get located somewhere where the people who are there all night and awake all night are also able to see your door. That's super helpful. Um, the thing I noticed, so I was one time, I've done a lot of things on I-40. This was in New Mexico. Blizzard was coming through, and one person was driving, one person was calling to make reservations. Like faster, like calling was better than the websites at that time because the websites would allow reservations to go through when there weren't rooms. So it was better to call. Like it's almost better to pull over for 10 minutes and find where you're going and then go rather than drive as fast as you can out of that situation. But everything was booked for hours around that closure, and I-40 was closed for a couple days because of that blizzard. I ended up actually driving south. We didn't get a hotel room. We drove south until, because what happens as you go further south, usually it gets warmer. And eventually we got to the rain part of the storm instead of the snow part of the storm, and then we could head east. So we just planned our entire route around I'm not driving in the snow and I-40 is closed.
Oh, I get that. Something I've seen is if it's a blizzard, hotels actually will put a cot in like the gym and only be like, tell you what, $50 and it's yours. Is it pleasant? No. Is it better than sleeping in your car? Yep.
Yep. That's actually not a bad play. Lots of cots in the gym. Who cares? I mean, it's actually better than dying outside. What's the most common problem you see when people are traveling, and are there ways to prevent it?
Most common problem, especially with flying, is lost luggage. Believe it or not. There is, well, I haven't used this trick in a few years, but a friend of mine actually recommended this one to me for your carry-on. If you put a starter pistol in your bag, you have to declare that you have a gun in your bag. Starter pistols are legal in all 50 states, and they are then required to take much better care of that bag. So it increases the tracking on it and increases the odds that it'll get to your destination. Now, if you don't want to go this route, and if you can't, you don't have a starter pistol, it's just not something you want to do. Depends, are you traveling for business or pleasure? If I'm flying for pleasure and I get there and they've lost my bag, whatever. My friends make fun of me a little bit. I wear the same clothes for a few days. I go to Goodwill. It's not a big deal. Suppose I'm traveling for business and my bag had my suit in it. This is now a significantly bigger deal because I need to, go to the place and look nice. I can't show up in my travel clothes because let's face it, I look like a hobo at this point because I dress for comfort on the flight, not to impress anyone. In this case, something we recommend doing is if you're traveling locally, look up places where you could buy a replacement and get an idea. So, I need a new suit. Well, I don't want to buy one. Well, there's a men's warehouse right here. How much will this cost me? Okay, cool. If you're traveling internationally, this changes significantly because at this point, now you need to, before you go, look up the translations. Europe does not use the same sizes we do. And if you go in there with American sizes, you are not going to get clothes that fit at all. And it can save you a lot of hassle in the long run just looking up basic translation for sizes, especially when it comes to undergarments.
The way I learned that was by being there and asking, "What size do you think I should try on?" But I actually get really frustrated with the American sizes on Birkenstocks because I know my Birkenstock European shoe size, which is different in a Birkenstock than other shoes in Europe. They are the same sizes, but yeah, anyway, something about the wider footbed means I can have a smaller size on that. Um, you order them on Amazon and they're like, "Get size 9." And I'm like, "But is it a 42? Is it a 40? Is it a 39? Like, what are you actually gonna send me?" So, I've had a lot, like, it varies, the translation a little bit.
It varies, especially depending on undergarments. Um, Bras in particular tend to go by much different sizes over in Europe than they do here. So that's something you need to prepare for and be aware of. I mean, I know women's sizes are all over the place anyway, but you're going to have to deal with the translation and the sizes being all over the place.
Yeah, I was really frustrated because I had to order a bra here, and it's like you measure yourself under your boobs, and there's a number. So one would think logically you use that number. No, you add 2 to 4 inches to that number, and then you order that size. And I
Yep.
had to go look it up. I'm like, how do I stop getting bras that are like too tight? Because I'm not going to wear these. I kept returning them, and I was like, oh, because it doesn't make sense. That's why. It does not make sense.
Nope.
So yeah,
Men's sizes are easy, at least in America. Like you just wrap a tape measure around your waist. Okay,
that's
34 inches. That's what I need.
100% how it should be done for women. Like waist this, hip that. Like here's your size. Inseam the other. Imagine that. No, no, we have to call them numbers so we don't admit how big around our waists are. That's what I think. I think it's a vanity thing here. Somebody in the
Yeah.
comments is gonna fix that for me. They're gonna be like, no, it's based on blah blah blah.
No, no, I agree with you. I think it's oh my god, my hips are this big. So instead of just saying, "Oh yeah, you're a size 12."
Yeah. 12 is beautiful. And then 12 has
Exactly.
changed from the 50s till now.
What hasn't?
Yeah. That's also true. I mean, and it will again by the next 50s. I'm not sure I'll be alive for the next 50s. We'll see. Um, okay. Well, so let's go back to getting prepared for air travel. Like, what do you recommend people do for that?
Okay. The key to being prepared for air travel is being prepared for the TSA. I hate to say it, but that is the number one thing. Make sure you wear shoes that you can take off easily. Try to limit the metal on you, like your watch, your ring, whatever. Take it off, throw it in your carry on. Always make sure when you travel, you have a carry on. Worst case scenario, at least you have, a spare pair of pants, boxers, shirt, and socks that you can change into.
I mean, I always need that spare pair of boxers in my luggage.
I figured you would.
What did I get pulled out for? I actually started setting off the thingy on my last trip. And oh, I have a metal hair comb that in Nashville didn't set it off, but it totally set it off at this other airport. And they were like, you got to take it all the way out, man. We have to make sure that's what it is. I was like, okay, here.
Yeah.
Here's my non-sharp metal hair comb.
The TSA is not a group you want to play F around with
Yeah. And
because they will drag you into a side room faster than you can blink.
yeah, I mean, whatever. It is important to know that. I travel a lot, so I work really hard not to have to get pulled aside. And in the last year, because I travel with my food now mostly to stay on my eating plan, the food trips them up more than anything else. Like, if you have a summer sausage in your bag, you can guarantee that they're gonna have to look at it and make sure it's not a liquid.
Oh yeah. I have problems with highly processed food. So a lot of the times I'll pack a protein powder with me. Every time I go through, they need to get someone to test that powder.
Yep.
Every time.
The same goes for cheese starters. Like the cheese, I did a cheese making class and I had to go through and like when you're teaching a class, you're not going to check under the plane, risking it getting lost. The culture you need to teach the cheese class. So I had this little white packet of powder and they were like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Well, it's a mesophilic culture for making cheese." Duh.
And they
They
were
were
like, yeah, we're gonna have to
just
get someone to do
yeah.
this.
We need to make sure that's not cocaine, ma'am. I'm like, really? Like, do I look like I'm on cocaine? But I guess whatever. Maybe I do look like I'm on cocaine. I do drink a good amount of coffee. So
You and me both.
I love me some good coffee. So let's go back to situational awareness now. Let's say I know I need to fly to Texas in May for Exit and Build Lamb Summit, and I'm going to go from Nashville to Austin, and then I'm gonna like grab an Uber to wherever I'm staying, for the Exit and Build Land Summit in Bastrop. How do I figure out from a just geopolitical slash whatever's going on standpoint what I need to be aware of there? And it's sort of like, I guess the background for this question is when I flew from California home for Christmas, or home here after Christmas, I got a text from my dad saying, "Did you make it home?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, there were protests that shut down the airport in LAX." And I was like, "Well, I didn't fly out of LAX." So, because I just try not to. Um, but I know I've been in one other incident where protests and riots kind of broke out at the hotel I was in Ferguson, which I totally, by doing a little bit of situational analysis, could have avoided that one by just knowing what was going on in the world. So, like, are there steps you recommend people take, or how do we prepare ourselves for that?
Depending on where you're going in the world, as you know, most places have patterns. It's something to look into. Like last time I checked, France rioted around the same time every year. Don't go to France during that time. If you get invited to stay at a place, do a little bit of Googling. This may sound basic, but look at house prices around there. If you're seeing a like giant 4-bedroom house that's like 2,000 square feet and it's only valued at like 40 grand, not a good neighborhood. Not a good neighborhood. Be aware of that before going in. And most of all, listen to your gut. If your gut says, uh-oh, bad things, don't go. It doesn't matter if you're SAC a meal or Navy SEAL. There are certain situations that you do not want a part of. And even if you win, you lose. And this is a tip for international travel. A lot of places, they have signs that say, beware of pickpocket. Everyone does the same thing. They touch their wallet when they see that sign. Don't touch your wallet. If you're a woman, keep your purse zipped up, keep it going around your body, not hanging off one shoulder. If you're a man, keep your wallet in your front pocket. No one goes for your front pocket. It is way too close to the family jewels. If someone sticks anything in my front pocket, I am aware that they are there.
I got pickpocketed in Prague, and it was not a lot of money, but I always kept a little change purse in my bag. And somebody got it out of my bag, and that was it. And I was like, well, I'm glad I don't keep, like, I always wear one of the undershirt things when I have to travel with cash. And that's where, my important stuff was. But I lost $5, man. So they had a good day. So even when you know you could be pickpocketed and you think you're situationally aware, you can still get pickpocketed and not know it.
Absolutely. If you're going into a high pickpocket area, it is not a good idea to carry cash in your wallet or in your bag, worst of all. Another place people usually get swiped is falling asleep at the airport.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tell you how many people I've talked to who said, hey, I fell asleep in the airport and my laptop's gone, my wallet's gone, my cell phone's gone. I'm calling you from a random person's cell phone. Can you please help me? Yes, we could. But still, shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place.
Oh, I know somebody whose laptop got swiped on the airplane.
That's kind of impressive, not gonna
It
lie.
was. They were in the airplane. They worked on their laptop, put it in the bag, and at some point got up to pee. Came back to their seat, didn't notice it until they like walked off the plane and were going to sit down and do something, and their laptop had been taken out of their bag, presumably by the person sitting next to them. They were able to report it and catch the person before they got to the next flight. So they got their computer back, but like some people are very brazen about stuff, which is kind of interesting because now I'm making everybody paranoid about being around people all the time and their stuff getting stolen. But the other thing is when you travel, do your best not to bring stuff that can't get stolen. That's something I've always thought. Like, if this gets stolen, it's going to be a bummer, especially if they can crack my password. But if they can't crack my password, what happens is this gets reset, right? And gets resold somewhere in theory. Everything that's on this, I can restore to another one of these in about 10 minutes right now.
Yep.
My laptop, it would actually really hurt if that got stolen right now. So that's, that's like where I'm like, oh, that's my weak spot. Like I need to make, because that's usually like this. It usually can be restored, but right now there are some decisions I made about the laptop that need to be unmade if it's going to travel with me.
And some things like that you can't get around. I mean, I need to bring my laptop if I'm traveling, period. End of story. It has stuff on it. I mean, like you said, my phone, I can, back up everything and get it all on my new phone in 10 minutes. Also, I have a nifty app that allows me to track this, take pictures, and listen to what you're saying. So, yes, I stand good odds of getting my phone back, but if it gets lost, whatever. I can literally pick up a burner at Walmart and is it great? Nope. Will it do what I need? Yep. Will it get me through it? Yep.
Another thing people can do is take photocopies of your identification and any cards you have with you and put them in your safe at home. And then if you're out and about and your passport gets stolen, at least you have the information you need to start the ball rolling to get some sort of identification.
That brings me up to another travel tip. Take copies of your ID and email them to a friend.
Oh, yeah.
We keep copies of frequent travelers' ID on hand. And if you lose your driver's license, your odds of checking into that hotel go way down. If we send them a picture of your driver's license, about 50 to 60% of the time, they'll take that. And they'll go, okay, you lost your driver's license, totally get it. We'll work with you on this. Hopefully your card was already on file.
Yeah. Well, and if you store things in more than one place in that situation, and this is because I've done months of travel with a backpack. Um, if you don't have all of your identification with you, so if you have some at home that's real, that can be overnighted to you. If you have a passport and a driver's license in two different places, if one gets stolen or lost, you probably have the other one. If you have them all in a nice, neat little container with your credit cards, you just lost everything at once. So I
And
usually would have
sometimes,
two different credit cards, separate places, two different IDs, separate places, and cash, separate places.
yep. And sometimes you lose your social security card too. And that's
Oh,
a
I don't
real mother.
I do not walk
Yeah,
around with that thing.
me neither.
Why?
I
No,
mean,
don't walk around with your social security card.
like some of our frequently travel clients, what they do is they keep an Amex on file with us.
Yeah.
So that way, like, and they just leave their Amex at home. So no matter what happens, oh crap, I got here and the border patrol literally stole my wallet. They do that depending on where you go. Okay, we got you. Call up, get you this, get you this, get you that, charge it all. You're set. What could have been a major, hiccup now just became a slight little bump in the road. And you can go on with your trip in relative ease.
So with your concierge service, if I lose my ID, like how do you help me out?
We'll email you a copy of your ID that we got previously from you because you told us that you travel. We'd also get a general indication of the sizes and type of clothes you like to wear, along with shoe sizes. Know what type of phone you have, whether it's an iPhone or Android, so that way we can send you an appropriate charging cord.
Do you ever like shoot out phones to people?
Yep, we had one guy who called us. I remember this one because it was from the Washington airport. And he's like, hey, can you help me? Everything just got stolen. I'm like, okay, you got your phone? No, I'm calling you from some random stranger's phone. Okay, what's around you? I'm at the Washington airport. No, no, no. What is actually around you? There's a Five Guys. Cool. You like burgers? Yep. We're going to order you a burger, fry, and a drink. Go over there, get it, sit down, relax. And we had someone deliver him a cell phone, a $500 Visa gift card. We emailed a copy of his ID to the hotel and had an Uber pick him up and take him there.
I bet he was happy about that.
He was. He upgraded the next time he got home.
So how does that get paid for? Is like, okay, so this $500 gift card, is that you pay in addition to it and the subscription that you're paying is like for the service, or how does that work?
The in his case, the $500 gift card was wrapped up in his subscription fee.
Okay. So that was just part of the service.
Correct.
On the financial side, does that work because you have multiple people you're working with and it leverages together, or do you buy insurance policies on top of that to cover costs?
So we refer to it as flex funds per account, and
Hmm.
your flex funds can be used for anything.
Okay.
I need a $500 gift card. Okay. I need a phone. Okay. I need Uber Eats delivered to me for a week straight because my kid just got into a motorcycle accident and I'm not leaving his side. Gotcha.
Okay. So you pay, I noticed on your site it's like $50 a year up to $1,200 a year.
Yep.
Are you adding flex funds on top of that, or is that part of that
The
subscription?
flex
It adds
funds
up.
are wrapped up into the subscription fee.
Okay.
Some guy, he travels in and out of Canada a lot. He cannot stop mouthing off to the border patrol. So they take his cell phone every single time. So every time he gets out, he's like, "Hey, can I get another cell phone?" Yep.
He should just not have a cell phone in Canada.
He actually tried just deleting everything off it so they wouldn't have anything to hold him for, and they held him for that. Wait, why'd you delete everything off this? What are you hiding? Because at the border, you're required to open your cell phone.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, because I don't know that I've gone to Canada with a cell phone since before flip phones went out of fashion.
When you come back, they will tell you to open up your cell phone.
What are they looking for?
Mm,
Nefarious text messages?
yes, proof of nefarious acts, stuff like that. It's one of those, what I believe is government overreach.
That is awful.
Isn't it? I
Is that
mean, I
going
don't have
into
anything
Canada or
nefarious
coming back to the US? Like, which way
coming
is
back.
it? Okay. So it's the US government doing that.
Yep. Well, at least he always gets held up coming back. So, yes.
It must be, yeah, those are US agents asking to see yourself. Yeah, so I have traveled with smartphones to Europe and back and not had that. I don't know why Canada would be different.
They're more worried about it because we're their neighbors. I don't know what to
I
tell you.
mean, but it's our agents on your way back in, not their agents.
Correct. And heck, screw you.
Just gave up my rights. Okay, we have a question. Do you help people with alternative travel arrangements? Example, in July, I took a train from Hungary to Romania. There was a train wreck, and one train for 8 hours became a 5 plus A bus for 22 hours. So basically, in that situation, do you help them find a better way to get somewhere when stuff goes wrong? Or
Yes, that is one of the reasons we are here. We have done everything from getting you a ride service, because they have different ride services depending on where you go. And we also partner with various travel agencies.
okay,
I mean, generally speaking, if you book through a travel agency and something happens, they got you. They will help you work around that. Will they answer the phone 24 hours? Usually not. But when they do pick up the phone, they will help you. We had a client who his flight got canceled and he's like, "I don't know what to do. I just need a ride home. I just need a ride home. I just need a ride home." I'm like, "Relax, relax." Ended up calling everyone. No one had a ride for him. The only thing was like one taxi service, and it was going to cost a small fortune. Well, it turns out it was off season for limo services. So they were offering rides like dirt cheap. So we got this guy a stretch limo.
that's actually hilarious. Screw the taxis. I'm taking a limo.
If it's cheaper, why not? I mean,
Well, what basic overview like advice would you give anybody who's looking to travel in 2024? Just like around the US.
number one piece of advice is know where you're going and know the local culture. I mean, I know that seems simple, but it's really not. Example, you go to Hawaii, they don't like to be rushed there. Period. End of story. I once lived there for over 2 years and I never once heard a car horn. Versus you go to Boston and it's hi, welcome to Boston. I mean, it's just the way it is. Same thing with New York. Verse over there, you'll never hear a horn. When the emergency vehicles come down, everyone just pulls over. Doesn't matter what side of the road you're on. They don't like to be hurried. Your meal's coming out slow. And if you're a tourist, they're going to refer to you as a haole. They will be very polite to you because you are bringing them a large amount of money. However, you are not one of them. Do not confuse it. Go down south, people tend to be a bit more on the polite side when it comes to customer service and a bit more rude in their personal lives. It's a weird formula, but is what it is. You go to New York, Boston, California, People talk fast, people drive fast, and you might as well get used to hearing the sounds of horns with red lights because that is your life.
I'll tell you what, I live in the South, and I flew home to Portland, Oregon. Well, it's not home anymore, but at the time, and I'd been here for years. And what happens in the checkout line here is you talk to people you don't know, and nobody thinks it's weird.
Mhm.
So I'm at the airport, and we're going down the escalator, and it's like kind of backed up, and I say something to the people in front of me, and they're like I'm gonna ask them for money.
Yeah. Why'd
In the
you talk to
Pacific
me?
Northwest, you don't talk to strangers, apparently. And it seemed very unfriendly to me because I had apparently acclimated to polite conversation here out and about.
Exactly.
And I thought, man, I'm from here and you guys are rude.
Or, you go to New York and you try that, people are going to be reaching behind their back or backing up slowly.
Well, it's
Because,
funny
oh, what are you
because
going to rob me?
I talk to people in New York all the time. And what I learned is usually I'm asking directions. Like, is it that way to this street or that way? Because they'll pop up out of the ground like a freaking prairie dog. And I'm like, I don't know where I am. And I'll be like, "It's Fifth Avenue that way?" And as long as you're walking the direction they are, they usually be like, "Yeah, that way." But if you try to stop somebody and ask them, they'd be like, "Screw off." So,
Yeah.
that was my
Also,
hack in New York.
New York, and like Pine Bush, New York, very different cultures. You think that you just crossed 6 borders in a time zone. That is how different they are. Because
Yeah.
like Pine Bush, New York is out in the country. Last time I checked, it was a UFO hotspot. People
Oh,
went out there, watched little lights dance in the sky. Wee! Everyone's all friendly, whatever. You go to New York at like 2 in the morning, you step outside, very different environment.
yeah, I haven't really been to rural New York much. I had an uncle who lived in Manhattan, so I used to always go there and visit him, but I don't know if he's still there or not. Anyway, okay, well, if people wanna learn more about your service, like, how do they do that?
Go to r3-kon.com. Also, we are starting up a YouTube channel giving various sorts of advice like how to avoid bed bugs, especially if you have a job that requires you to travel and put you up in cheap hotel rooms.
Alright. Any last words?
Arrivederci.
All right. Well, thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me, Nicole. It was a great time.